Hello everyone. So I will be talking about how AI can really supercharge your workflow and accelerate your artistic process to insane speed. So if you're an artist thinking about adopting AI into your workflow and maybe using it in the production pipeline, this video is for you. It doesn't really matter what kind of artist you are, because all artists go through this like same process, right? So whether you're a 3D artist, a comic book artist, or an animator, you'll go through all these steps no matter what, right? So how AI is right now is most useful in these first two stages because it kind of helps you think a lot faster and develop your ideas much faster. And you can think about this as if you use AI, these two stages will get like really shortened up to not really take much time anymore compared to your standard work. And that includes revisions because, a lot of times we iterate on these things, we ask for the client feedback, we change things based upon, current state of the project. So a lot of things can change. If you have a lot of revisions in mind, that can only be, just extended just a little bit. It's still going to be compressed significantly, which is why AI art and adopting it into your professional workflow is a really big deal. The reason why it's much useful on the first two stages, it's because AI can't really make things that professional looking right out of the gate. So when you press generate on Stable Diffusion or whatever art generator you're using, you're not going to get like the final illustration when you press generate. You probably need to edit it. So a lot of human input goes into here where you take those ideas and you refine them and you actually produce the actual like finalized work based on the ideas that you've gathered on the previous stage, aided by AI. We're just using it mainly as a tool, as like a second brain to generate ideas even faster. Maybe we go on Pinterest, Google Images, ArtStation, or like, some movie that you just watched, or some like a real life event, or maybe you've gone traveling, you saw some really interesting architecture and really interesting culture, and you want to integrate that into your next artwork or next piece. Normally, we do that with like photo bashing and digital art, right? We can still use like traditional tools, right? We can use watercolor, you can use markers. Right now, the industry standard, of course, is digital art, photo bashing, painting over, making rough sketches, because it just takes way less resources, which is time, of course. It's much easier to do and iterate upon if you do have like a traditional sketch of this concept that you want to show to your client. If they need to revise on that, you'll need to have like a separate piece of paper. But if you do that digitally, you can just open back the Photoshop file and do the revisions in that same file. So this is just how it's been for like the past decade or so. The entertainment industry and how the art being produced for that industry is largely done in digital. So we kind of see this digital art and photo bashing stage as like a cauldron. It's just a research process. We're thinking about what are the possible chemical reactions we can get from mixing all these ideas, and how AI comes into equation. Instead of having this cauldron slow fire, we have an industrial grade electric oven can like burst out like massive amounts of heat that can cook your ideas to fruition, much faster. The thinking process and seeing the results of those experiments is going to be much faster if you're using AI art, especially with image to image, remixing, or creating your custom models and using your own data set, stuff like that. I'm gonna use like two examples from my own work where I've used AI. For example, for one, I worked for Louis Vuitton for a 3D animation for an event that they have here in the Philippines, and we did some of the storyboarding and we iterated and revised the storyboard based on what their feedback was. And to show you what I mean, this is the storyboard that we've made, or not really the actual storyboard, but these are the concept images that I've created inside the AI, and we kind of presented it from just using these images. So these images are 100% AI generated. This one, for example, is I've done this in Blender. I've rendered like a really crude 3D render of this, and I put it into SD. So these are just some of the ideas that I've kept. But actually, there's a lot more that was generated. Think about how these are just one row. The amount of generated images is like how it can fill up this whole screen, and you can even scroll down. So that's how many ideas I was able to generate. I've just picked some of them that made sense for our project, some of them that actually looked good, and some of them that I haven't even thought of my own. It was just a matter of like happy accidents occurring within the AI and me kind of adopting that idea. And maybe we can refine this. Maybe we can adapt this to our project because this is such a good idea. One example is this one where the original generation was this. So we had this like Louis Vuitton, and inside of this like game show intro thing, my mind already sparked of how we can animate this cool little like slick animations of this whipping in and out, stuff like that. So it's a really cool concept. I just thought maybe we could adopt this, maybe just change the logo, that way it's a bit more refined. And I eventually got here pretty much the same. This was edited slightly before I fed it into the AI, and I used image to image for this one. Got basically this image. I erased the Louis Vuitton logo, added it on top. AI did the rest for this one, refining it and making it look like a really beautiful 3D render. Unfortunately, on the final state of the project, this was scrapped. But either way, it was still a really cool idea that I would never have come across if it wasn't for AI. Then, of course, on iterations and revision, for example, this one, we had an idea where like this ribbon was going in and inside and outside of the wall, but the client wanted a purple ribbon instead of a blue ribbon, and that was relatively easy to edit. I just need to change the color of this one, maybe go to Photoshop, select the matching colors, change it to blue, and revision is done. But for example, that looked ugly, I can just feed it into the AI, image to image, generate another revision that looks, quite decent, then show that to the client, right? So that's one of the key ways AI helped me in this project, making the revisions and making like communicating with the client much easier. Right, the other one is for a Christmas 3D animation where I had to create like not just character design but also environment design. So it's really going into the realms of concept art and really sparking your brain into these like new ideas. So you can see here I've generated a lot of Santa images. We've not sure if the final design is here, but I think it's close to this proportion, but has kind of like face the face of here, like the facial proportions here is the most similar to what we've made on the final 3D animation. And because me, like I can paint, I can render some stuff, right? But our client was really adamant that we show mock-ups of like the actual 3D object, right? And I can't do that. Like me personally, I can't create a 3D render like with my own artist skills. I have more of like a painterly style. I have a more rough around the edges kind of style, so I can do sketches, but 3D renders for me that would take a really long time. But with AI, that's been designed and trained on like 3D images for like data set. You can see here it's been trained on like modern Disney stuff. For this one, I can just show like almost all of them, or I can just show like 5 of them, and maybe they can just pick and choose. Maybe we like the face of this one, maybe we like the body of this one, which we actually did. They like this face, for example, and they like the body this one, and that's what we kind of tried to merge together. So it's a really wonderful way to communicate to your clients if they can't visualize your ideas as well as you do. If you have like this really great idea, but you need like a day or two to refine it and like show it to people, and if you're low on time, that's gonna be a problem because you can't really show that idea. You can't really sell them or pitch that idea if they can't see it. But AI lets you do that, lets you show this idea in your head. Hey, this is what we're going to do. So please have faith in us that we're gonna do great in this project. It's also like much easier way of giving updates to your client that, hey, this is how the project's turning out. The other one is, of course, environment design, background design. We haven't really thought about the backgrounds just yet in this project, but I already generated some. And, same thing. We wanted a more cozy looking thing, but it's like in a factory. We really like this generation, but it was too pink. And, of course, in Photoshop, you can just change the colors, or maybe, color it on your own by using a color blending mode. So using this as a starting point is already so valuable, and that's what I want you guys to think about. Using AI to augment your workflow, to speed up your workflow, to get to the finish line much faster than before really game changing, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about this stuff just yet. As a disclaimer, I already know the legal gray area AI generations are in, but since we're mainly using it in this step as an experimentation tool, as a revision tool, and we don't use a lot of the AI images generated in this part, since I'm talking about 3D animation. Maybe the same can go for comic books where you ink and color your own drawings. Maybe for illustrations where you paint over the AI or like photo bash, transform it and make it your own style and your own voice. But if you're using AI to publish that same generation without much changes, human input or whatever, I think that's the legal gray area that I'm not too sure I feel too happy about, but I'll leave that decision to you. Mainly just want to talk about how this AI is like really useful for me. Not a lot of people talk about that, because of all the AI hate, all the legal implications, with all this like noise, chaos happening, and the positives for artists that use this technology is really being overshadowed by a lot of this noise. So that's about it. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see a video about an AI model that you can download and use, trained on publicly domain and copyright free data and images, you can check out that video here somewhere on the screen. And I'm planning to do a more in-depth guide, a more concrete explanation of my workflow using AI. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye bye.